So we've looked at organisations, we've looked at how the decision-making unit is made up of individuals, and we've looked at how those decisions are made. What we're going to look at now is the different communication needs at different stages of that decision-making process. Handy, there's lots and lots and lots of models that are used. I'm going to use the hierarchy of effects. It's very, very well referenced. It's very well researched, and actually applies quite nicely to the decision-making process. So as you become aware of that problem, and as you build the need and the knowledge around that product, so around the general need description and product specification, it's very much the cognitive stage, okay, of the process. Then, as you move through the process, there's the affective stages, and this is where you start doing that external research, you start developing preferences, and then you make that decision. Okay, there is of course the post-behavior stage as well, but we'll discuss that later. And as such, if you go back to the business buying process, you can roughly break it down into these areas. So you've got the cognitive stage, where you want to help your customer understand that you have the product that's very much going to fulfill their need. Okay, they're going to meet the product specifications. They're going to you understand the problem that's being solved. And whilst the customer itself is specifying the product, you might be supplying that into other industries. So again, it's that cognitive information where you may want to put out what it is the problem that you're solving. So lots of things like case studies, how it meets specifications in other industries, what is the problem that's being solved. So this is very much around that top of funnel awareness. So that awareness stage is all top of funnel work. In the effective stage, this is where people are starting to do that supplier search, the proposals, supplier selection, getting references. This is where they're in the evaluation stage, that middle of funnel work. Okay, and the bottom is that behavior. Actually, when they make the decision to purchase, that's bottom of the funnel approach. So this is when they actually, how are they going to buy, how they're going to rebuy, how's that performance going on with the product? Do they need to change it? Is it going to be a straight rebuy, or do they need to make a modified rebuy? Okay. And as marketers, you are ensuring that the messaging is in place for each stage. And as such, you may have different purposes to your content. So this is where you start thinking, okay, we're at the top of funnel. We're building the awareness of it within an organization. We're trying to make the prospects aware of the problem, aware of the solution to the problem that they're having. Examples of that, things like blogs, social media updates, photographs, okay, podcasts. It's that top of funnel awareness. This is what we do. This is the problems we solve. This is what we're great at. This is our expert power base that we have within our organization. You can use different levers depending on what it is you're trying to do, but each and every piece of content that you create needs to have that purpose. And so this is the research side of that we're looking at. So you're looking at what is it that you need to do? What is it that your prospects need at this stage to create that content? Okay, because content without research is pointless almost. Middle of the funnel, this is where they're starting to do that evaluation of alternatives. So this is where you need things like product specifications. You need your specification sheets. This is where you do your webinars, your lunch and learns, your educational resources, so that you're helping the organization and people, those carrying out that evaluation, communicate that information easily. So you're not using big, complex, verbose language. You're using nice, clear, simple things that ideally of the language in the organization that you're targeting. So lots of marketing managers that I know have actual microsites dedicated to the different customers that they're targeting. So if you're targeting Shell, you'd use the language of Shell. If someone from BP comes in, and you can see from the Google Analytics where they've come in, what organization they've come in from, they'll be served up a different page to other people. So you can get as complex or as bespoke as you feel that you have the resources and the need to do. Because don't forget, different prospects have different values attributed to them. So when you've decided what your market is, who you're targeting, which decision-making units you're going to map, and how you're actually going to target that organization, you'll have a value attributed to that organization. You'll know roughly what it is it's worth to you as a business to then determine how much effort would need to go into it to convert it. And then the bottom of funnel activity, so this is when the actual purchase step comes in place. That's when you do things like demonstrations. This is where your sales team, this is where your sales team go out and they go and let the customer trial it. This is where you have trials. This is where you can have webinars and events. This is actually how do we get them over the line from the evaluation to that purchase. Okay. And this is where they need to be the most informed about the product so that they feel confident enough that the risk is low in making this decision and they can easily convert. Okay. So they go from unaware about you to problem aware to solution aware, product aware, and then the most aware at the bottom funnel when they convert into buying the product. And these sources of information can come from a variety of places. Okay, you can go from commercial areas, so things like trade shows, personal selling, telemarketing, email, so direct mail. You've got the impersonal side on this side of the graph, where you're looking at things like sales literature, your pamphlets, your leaflets, your spec sheets, your website, your direct mail. So this is where you've got the personal approach. Okay, so this is organization to organization, one-on-one in a commercial setting. The impersonal, this is where the person goes out, the buyer goes out and can peruse things at their own need without the need of you and me as marketers being directly there. But we influence it. So we're the ones who produce that literature. We produce the advertising. We produce the websites. Okay. So it needs to be there for that purchaser to consume on their own. You also get the non-commercial stuff. So this is word of mouth by colleagues, consultants, co-workers. It's personal. So this is those conversations that take place on golf courses. This is the conversations that take place in curry houses after the trade show. This is people interacting informally, okay, but one-on-one. Impersonal non-commercial, these are things like trade publications. This is when your PR activity starts stepping up. So this is things like articles, this is things like blogs, this is external organizations. But again, at arm's length, you're producing it, but it's designed for the buyer to consume offline, or not online, but not personally, person to person. Okay, so it's impersonal, personal, commercial, and non-commercial. So this is the more informal stuff. So hopefully through all of this, you understand the different factors. So this is the buying determinant theory. And we've now gone through each and every stage here. Okay, we've applied different models at each stage. So you should be able to now be able to research everything from what's going on in the environment, what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on in the organization, what's going on in the individuals making those decisions, to then be able to affect each and every stage throughout that buying process. Okay. So this culminates in the difference between to business consumer and business to business selling. Okay, we did this right at the beginning, and throughout it we've been comparing the two. So the selling process, hopefully now you've got a better idea of business marketing definitely uses system selling. Okay, it's understanding that network as a whole, that ecosystem in which the organization exists within and sells within that system, both externally but also internally with the decision-making unit. Okay, you're selling to not just one-on-one, you're going at the system, and you're trying to sell to and affect the system as a whole. In consumer marketing, it's product selling. I have a need, my hands are dry, I buy hand cream. Okay, so it's looking at problem solution, whereas in business marketing, it's looking at all the different facets of it to make it as a part of the system itself. Personal selling is used extensively in business marketing. Okay, you've got Jack coming tomorrow, Jack on Wednesday, who's going to be discussing the system selling and the personal selling approach within business-to-business relationships and agencies. And those relationship is marketing and use of relationships is used extensively, both officially and unofficially, in those formal and informal settings. Okay. In consumer marketing, it's limited. And when you did your example of buying a holiday, you've looked at how limited that relationship was. There were a few of you who did have that repeated, going back to the seller for more information, but again, it was the minority. Whereas in business purchasing, it's the majority. Promotion strategies are customer specific. I used the example of serving up different microsites to BP and Shell, for instance. The communications customer specific, you pick because the buyers are so few, you know who the buyers are, you know the organizations you want to target. You can segment and target them specifically with promotional strategies directed at that individual organization. It's not like consumer marketing where it's mass sales, where you're trying to get as many people across the line as possible. In business, there's fewer of them, so you take a far more detailed look. Web integration is much greater in business marketing. Okay, absolutely. So there's the use of bidding portals. Your products may even interlink online. Your website is invaluable because not only does it provide a method for those informal information search in the evaluation or alternative section, but actually it can be used for purchasing. It can be used for making sure that you're credible. So looking at your credibility, it serves much greater sense in business to business rather than business to consumer. And whilst Brennan, Canning and McDowell feel that branding is limited, it's not inconsequential. So you still have to do brand building. Okay, if you look at Byron Sharp's work, How Brands Grow, and Les Binet, the long and the short of it, I mentioned it in the first and second lecture. Branding is essential because businesses will still make decisions based on, remember, there's humans involved in it. Actually, if the product's relatively the same, the price is relatively the same, we'll go with a company that's got a better brand we know are going to be around for longer. Okay, there's a more brand promise within that bigger organization. So branding is limited, but please don't think it's not important, because it absolutely is. Market research, again, is limited because businesses are opaque. It's harder to find out. And actually what often happens is that through the use of personal selling and those relationship building, that's how you get your market research. So the stronger your relationships, the more you're able to find out what's going on in the market. It's a lot more limited and it's a lot more informal. Whereas in consumer marketing, as you know, is extensive. Segmentation can be unsophisticated. Okay, some companies just go for that mass approach. Okay, we're going to target SMEs of, 250 people. It can be arbitrary sometimes. Whereas actually, it is becoming more and more sophisticated, and it's down to you as marketing managers as to the level of sophistication that you want to do. Are you going to segment by problem, or are you going to segment by demographics? And hopefully from consumer to business to consumer marketing, it is all about that consumer need and that problem being solved rather than straight demographics. Okay. And again, competitors' awareness is lower because you don't know what your competitors are doing, you don't know who they are, and often there can be different ways to solve a problem that could result in different indirect competitors. So when you're looking at competitors, always think of direct and indirect competitors. And the product complexity, without a shadow of a doubt, is greater in the business-to-business environment. So hopefully from all of this, we've met those learning objectives. Okay, we now know how to differentiate between business-to-business and business-to-consumer buying behavior. We understand the organizational buying process a lot better. Know how to identify the different members of the organizational decision-making unit. And you also know how decisions are made within organizations and what influences them. All right. So again, references as ever. Thank you very much.